Hi, it's Will here from Your Career Mastery, and today we're going to be talking about 3 tips for a successful job interview. So I love job interviews. I think they're one of the most exciting parts of the whole recruitment process. You've been sending out resumes to all these companies, and now you get to finally meet someone in the company and learn more about them and about the company and about the role, and get to share more about yourself and discover if you're a good fit for the company. And over the years, I've learned that really the key to a successful job interview is all about preparation. And you'll see these 3 tips that we're going to talk about today all focus around preparing and how you prepare for the job interview. And if you do these things right, even if you don't get the job, I think the interview will still be incredibly successful if you've prepared for it correctly and were able to glean insights and things that you can take actions off the back of the interview that then help you prepare for the next interview, which might be for a company you're a way better fit for, and is more money and is just a better fit for you overall. So let's get into it. So the first tip for a successful job interview is really about researching the company and researching the role. So one of the most important parts of going into a job interview is making sure you've understood and reviewed and read and reread the key selection criteria and just the whole job description as a whole, so that when you get into the interview, they might ask you, what do you understand the role to be? You need to make sure that you can pretty much quote the job description or the key selection criteria and really give them, show them that you understand the role you're going for and that you're really invested in getting it. Because if you're just sort of like, oh, okay, yeah, I think the job is about doing this and doing that, and don't really actually show that you have a lot of clarity with how you understand the role, it'll show you're not really engaged. So it's really important to show you understand the role you're going for, but also research the company. If you're going for a job at Walmart, make sure you go to the Walmart website, have a look at it, understand, like go to a Walmart, go to a store, understand how it works. They're a public company. You could even read the investor presentations, really just to get a feel for what this company is and where they're at. So at an absolute minimum, if they're a web company, or even if they're not a web company, do some research on them. Understand, where do they sit in the market? Who are their competitors? What are some challenges facing this company? And start to get a feel for where you think you could start adding value based on the kind of role that you're going for. So that's number 1. Understanding the company, so important, because I guarantee you, I'd bet $1 million, they're going to ask you, what do you know about our company? And you need to show that it's like going on a date. You want to show that you're interested and that you're engaged and you've shown some mental preparation going into this job interview. All right, number 2, mentally prepare responses. So they're going to ask you some behavioral based questions. It always happens in every job interview. They're going to ask you things like, tell me about a time that you were stressed at work and how you resolved it. Tell me about a challenge you faced. Tell me about yourself. Tell me how your coworkers would describe you if they were here in the room. There's millions of different behavioral based questions. You need to start preparing some responses to some of the more common ones. And the important part around preparation is that it's the same that we've talked about in videos about your resume. You can't just send the same resume out to every single different job you go for. You need to tailor it based on the key selection criteria that is unique to that job. So, similar to that with your resume, for the job interview, you need to make sure that some of these prepared responses that you have for behavioral-based questions are relevant. So important. Of all the experiences you have, pick the ones or cherry pick the ones that are most relevant for this job and are going to paint you in the best light as the most ideal candidate. Super important. So, when it comes to relevant responses to behavioral-based questions, you want to think of some achievements you've had in previous roles that are going to be relevant for this job. Some examples of times you've faced conflict or resolved challenges or faced ambiguity and uncertainty and how you resolved that. Examples of where you've had strong achievements or strong wins, where you've worked with a team. Responses to what your values are as an employee, what you look for in a company. They might ask you why you wanted to join this company, and that's where the research component is so important. You might say, I want to join this company because I've had a look at the website and I really align with the corporate values or the mission statement or their environmental policy. Whatever it is, needs to be something tangible, needs to be relevant for your role, and needs to be relevant for the company that you are presenting to. Maybe even some data points that speak to the achievements that you are going to use as examples. So really important to mentally prepare some responses and ensure that they are relevant. Number 3, come prepared with questions. This is my silver bullet. Excuse me. I love this. For every single job interview, come prepared with questions for them. A job interview is not meant to be you sitting there being asked questions by a panel and then otherwise sitting there silently and leaving. If you walked away from the job interview and didn't ask sort of a handful of really good questions, you failed, in my opinion. You need to ask questions. You need to show, A, by asking the questions, that you're engaged. You're interested in the company. You're interested in this role. You want to learn more about it. And you're a person of value. And a person of value wouldn't just take any single job offered to them. They want to make sure that, they want to see that you're doing the due diligence to ensure that it's a good fit for you as much as they are ensuring that you're a good fit for them. Super important. Ask questions. What's your leave policy? Actually, maybe don't ask that straight away. But I mean, it might be parental leave or maternal leave. That might be a relevant question. But maybe even things like, what are the corporate values of this team? What kind of challenges are facing the business at the moment? What would a typical day look like? What kind of projects would I be working on? What teams will I be working with? These are all really easy questions, and you can actually use those questions for any job interview you go for. What would a typical day look like? What kind of challenges is the business facing at the moment? What are the expectations of this role? What would succeeding in this role look like? What kind of teams would I be collaborating with? Great questions to ask. You should get some really interesting responses that will again show you whether or not this is the kind of business that you want to work with. And also my favorite part about this whole asking questions aspect is that it makes the job interview less daunting. It makes it more of a conversation, and a job interview should be a two-way conversation. Again, it shouldn't just be you sitting there being asked questions by a panel and then walking out. You should be going in with the mindset that you want to get insights about this company and about the teams you're going to be working with, because you're also looking for red flags that might not suit you in the job you're going for. They might say, oh, you're going to be working with no one. You'll be working in the corner by yourself, and good luck with that. If that was for me, I'm like, hell no. I want to work with a company where I get to collaborate with lots of different teams because I get to learn from them. It builds my knowledge, but it's just more interesting when you're engaging, for me personally, with a bunch of different teams. If I was just in the corner writing content for marketing, that would be so boring and so lonely because I'm a little bit of an extrovert. So again, these are important insights. They're not just good to show that you're engaged. You should be trying to get tangible information from asking these questions. So these are my 3 most important tips. It's all about the preparation, how you prepare for a job interview. If you mentally prepare some of these responses, it'll really help you not be put off when they ask you a bit of a curveball question, because you've got some responses ready to go and you can sort of pick and choose the ones that are most appropriate and relevant based on the questions they ask you. Super important to research the company. Again, doing this research about the role and the company, it'll help you come prepared with these questions. So all of these 3 aspects feed each other. They're super important. And if you're nervous before you're going into a job interview, and everyone, let's be honest, gets nervous before going into a job interview, having these questions prepared, having points of dialogue will really help it, again, be a two-way conversation and a little less formal and a little less stuffy. And again, just makes everyone more comfortable, both the person interviewing you and yourself going into the job interview, because you're prepared with questions, you've got ammunition ready to fire, you're ready to go, put your best foot forward. But again, it all comes down to the preparation. What's that famous saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's super important. And again, you should walk away with insights about this company, and maybe even insights about the role that if you don't get it, it shows you things, or you learn things in that job interview that might say, oh, cool, I actually didn't know about that thing. I need to go away and learn about that. So for example, I remember going for a job years ago, and he asked me, the guy hiring, had I ever timed myself as a copywriter? Like, how long does it take me to write a piece of content? I didn't actually have an answer because I'd never done it, essentially. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I actually was like, oh, I can take that away and actually time myself and get a feel for it, understand what the industry benchmark is, so that if someone asks me again, I'm prepared and I'm ready. So every job interview you go for, Like, it's quite rare that if you're going out, you're saying, cool, I'm ready to get a new job, that the first thing you interview for you get. Like, it's quite rare. And it's very normal, and it's been my experience that you might have multiple interviews. And the great thing is each interview is different and you'll learn something. And you'll get better at job interviewing and at presenting, so that by the time that really good role comes around that you're a perfect fit for and they're a perfect fit for you, you're trained. You've gone through job interview training. You've got prepared responses. You know what kind of questions you need to ask to get a good feel for the company. You have a really good process around researching companies and researching the role. So you can come in guns blazing, knock their socks off and get the role, and you'll land yourself in a perfectly fantastic job. So that's it for today. 3 tips to go away and think about for your next job interview. And I wish you all the best. Cheers.